Yeah, as soon as they get back in the room. Anyhow. I think so.
Was it not earlier?
Alien.
I don't know what's wrong with mine. I can't connect. But I
I'm
think
on
Teresa
fine.
and Dana are both on.
So I don't.
But yours won't connect.
No, I didn't.
Just got on.
do
My hand's working, Jim.
I don't know. That's,
Oy.
that's what that would be my.
Everybody else is on, right? I can see them.
I'm gonna turn it off and turn it back on.
So that's my go-to try. Is just turn it up.
Turn it off and turn it
No.
on. It's talk into your shoe. It's like
I'm on
on
fine.
TV.
Maxwell Smart.
Yeah, it's like we got
Oh,
the village or
It's a
something.
flip flop. Mother talks into her flip flop.
Is
Oh, the commercial.
Sharon
Yeah.
coming tonight?
No, she's on. She's online somewhere.
Cheryl's there.
Carol, Cheryl, and Sharon. Oh. As soon as Marvin comes back in.
Got enough?
Why not? Not worried about it. If he wants more people,
I put it
Well,
over in your
but-
area.
we'll come to budget. Give him the money.
This is the one she put over there.
Oh.
We'll never say this. We know his people are working.
I have one.
Are you ready? No. Tim, you ready?
Lisa, you ready?
I'm ready when you are. Yes.
As we're recording. I want to call to order the regular council meeting for Tuesday, June 1st. And Teresa, will you call the roll?
Mayor Chip Dutcher,
Sure.
Carol Robertson,
Here,
Doug Lanner,
Here.
Marvin Block,
Here.
Ben Lee.
Here.
Karen Hendren. Sharon,
Gotta unmute, Sharon.
I don't think she's on there anymore. Her name was there, now it's gone.
It was at the bottom.
There she is. Unmute, Sharon.
So she's here.
I muted again.
Unmute. It's down at the bottom on the left.
There she's,
If you don't say I'm here, Sharon, you don't get your pay.
Oh, that's true.
Okay,
Oh,
can
there
you
we
hear me?
go.
There you go.
There we go. All right.
Talked about money. She's on there now.
She's there. Got her attention.
All right. Sharon Hendren's here.
Here.
Carol Van Deest.
here.
All right. Full house.
Everybody's here. Okay. If we could bow our heads, I'm going to provide the invocation tonight. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity we've had to honor our fallen heroes. We thank you for their sacrifice and for all they've done for our country. We also are thankful for first responders, especially our police officers, as we honor them this evening for National Police Week. We also commend to you our other employees and all the citizens of our village, that you will look after them as they go about their daily lives. We ask these blessings in your name. Amen.
Amen.
We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First item up is action on minutes for May the 4th, which were circulated prior to the meeting. Any council members have any additions, corrections to the May 4th meeting minutes?
Move to approve as written.
Ben,
Second.
move to approve.
Cheryl.
Cheryl has seconded. Teresa, you want to call the roll?
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Doug Laner,
Yes.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ken Lee,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren,
yes,
Carol Van Dies.
Yes,
All right. Next up is, as you all know, last council meeting was canceled because the power went out. We had planned to present a proclamation to our police department in recognition of National Police Week. I'm going to read the proclamation. Chief is on there via Zoom or whatever service we're now using. And because I can't remember all of them. So anyhow, this is the proclamation. National Police Week 2021. Whereas there are more than 8,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Johnstown Police Department. And whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day and the calendar week in which it falls. And whereas the village of Johnstown wishes to recognize National Police Week 2021 and to honor the service and sacrifice of all law enforcement officers, especially those who have lost their lives in the line of duty while protecting our communities. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the village of Johnstown joins the nation in thanking all of our police officers and their families for their service and dedication to this community. And I, Chip Dutcher, Mayor of the Village of Johnstown, on behalf of Village Council, do hereby proclaim May 9 through 15, 2021 as Police Week in the Village of Johnstown, and hereby call on our community publicly salute the service of our law enforcement officers. And I have dutifully signed this. Chief isn't here for me to give this to him, but we will make sure he gets it. In addition, Chief, if you can share with your officers and the dispatch folks, the council members are going to treat all of you to lunch. I've made arrangements with the Dashing Diner. You can just go down there and order whatever you want and tell them it's your police department and just go on the village tab and
Village Council tab,
village council tab.
not Village Fund tab.
If this is not taxpayer funded, this is privately funded by each of your council members are making a contribution to pick up this tab. And we thank you. It's the least we can do for your service to keeping all of us safe. And we do appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much, Mayor. I do humbly accept that proclamation, and I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to yourself, the members of council, and the community for being supportive of our services. And we will continue to provide the excellent service that we have in the past.
Thank you, Chief. Also, we did a proclamation, which we're not going to read tonight, for Economic Development Week. We pay attention to all of those economic development issues, and that's where we get the tax money to fund this operation. So it's important. We do pay attention. Joe Robertson chairs our Economic Development Committee, and she does an excellent job. And that's about all I can say about that for tonight, but we'll have more on other economic development issues to be announced in the future. Next up, we have citizen comments for items not on the agenda.
Go ahead.
Okay. You want us to hold up?
Well, I think it would help a lot if it was explained now what process you have to go through, even though the zoning's in place, what process the developer has to go through, such as placement, plans and stuff like that, what they go through, so everybody will understand it.
Okay,
What they have to come back to the village and do, such as placement of the buildings, looks of the buildings, easements, water, drainage and stuff like that. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't prepared for that, but we
No,
can,
I just meant just roughly what the process they have to go through. It's not all done when they just set a plan.
sure.
go ahead.
Uh, so,
And then we'll hear from
That's-
everybody who wants to talk.
You're like, yeah, I sign your paycheck every 2 weeks. So obviously we're talking about the Leafy Dell apartments / condos. The way it is going to work and the way it's set up in our codified ordinances is for the developer wanting to create the apartments there will have to submit engineered drawings that show the location of everything from anything underground to above ground. So the placement of the buildings, landscaping, parking lots, lighting,
Stormwater runoff.
stormwater ponds, stormwater pipes, water laterals, sewer pipes, sewer laterals, and the list goes on. It's all in our ordinances. So Bailey, tell me when I'm going off. So what would happen there is we look at them, we say, yes, your plans meet the specifications and the requirements of the ordinances. That never happens the first time. I haven't seen it in 15 years, nor will I ever see it. So there will be some back and forth with our engineer saying, hey, you have to update your plans because there is an easement in the way, or we know that there is a line in the ground that you don't know about or whatnot. So that back and forth will take place, I guarantee, at least 2 times, maybe 3.
Which
So
the applicant pays for.
absolutely.
We use our engineers, but the applicant pays for the review.
Yep. So the developer pays for 100% of the costs of that. Thank you, Bailey. So then once that's approved, we will then progress into the construction phase, which then the developer also pays for the inspection to make sure whatever was approved is done in accordance with those approved plans. Again, the developer pays for the inspector to be out there. He's our inspector. He works for us. He's the village engineer's representative. So, not anyway. So they pay for it. And then we make sure through that engineering representation that everything is done correctly to those plans. If it is, great. If it's not, which I guarantee it won't be, there'll be things that they'll have to go back through and we call it a punch list, go back through, make sure it's done correctly and according to the plans. That's a real brief snapshot and probably a 12 to 18 month time schedule. But I hope I did what you asked there, Marvin.
Done exactly what I asked, and I hope it answers. You got Chip's running the meeting. I just wanted you to put that out there,
All right.
and hope it answers some questions and gives you some relief about what the process is.
And also there's opportunities at each stage for public input and the approval process.
Well, I don't know about public input because it's already zoned. Right, Bailey?
So before any shovels can go into the ground, the applicant, and after the engineering signs off its their approval, the applicant must apply for and get an approved zoning permit, and they must apply for and get an approved certificate of appropriateness. The zoning certificate, because it is a permitted use, does not need to go to Planning and Zoning Commission. It can be approved internally. The certificate of appropriateness, which is only on the design of the outside of the buildings, does have to go to Planning and Zoning, which will be a public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Platting still has to be, this hasn't been platted though.
This does not have to be
You don't have to
platted.
Plan an apartment.
Anyhow, so I want to give you all an opportunity. Come and tell us, say whatever you want. Just come up to the microphone. Here are the rules.
Let's qualify that there, Mayor.
Gotta be
Come up,
nice.
come up to the microphone, tell us your name. And you can just say, we live in the condos in Leafy Dell or wherever you live. And then you got 5 minutes to tell us your thoughts. And we might ask questions, we might not, but we want to hear what you have to say. And this is your opportunity in front of all of council, including those online, to have your say. But we should say that we have not received, the village has not received anything formally from this developer. So
Just the one pager, Bailey.
it's a one pager on the back of a napkin. So
My question is
got to
this.
speak into the mic.
Who are you? And what-
I'm Carolyn Fallon. I live at the Villas of Leafdale.
Okay.
My question is this. I understand that we are zoned AR1. But what I'm questioning is the original zoning. Okay, when it was originally applied for, it was applied AR1 with the intent that condos were going in that entire area. Correct?
I wasn't here. That it was the intent from what I have known historically, that the condos, but with the downturn in the economy, they shelved the rest of those condos.
Okay, well, right, it went,
Was involved from the beginning. If you let me. I was involved with that from the beginning.
okay,
That was designed as condos.
okay,
And the original, Pauline Chambers originally laid it out. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court of the state of Ohio ruled that there's no difference between a condo and an apartment. That wasn't Johnstown done that. That was your state of Ohio Supreme
Okay.
Court.
but the original intent, the AR1
Yep.
with the condominiums, whether the condominiums or apartments, the intent with the number of units were not the current number of units that are now going to be built there. You know, so if the number of units were going to remain the same, would be totally different. You know, so now the AR1 is now going up to the 11.9 units. They weren't gonna, it wasn't going to be that.
The AR1 has never gone up. It's always
I
been.
know. What was the original intent with the condos going there were not going up to 11.9.
Oh, intent.
Going to the maximum. They were going to stay the way we were, where they were going to be the continuation of the buildings that we currently have. You know, so what,
You're talking density.
The
right,
number of units.
exactly.
And-
So now
and-
the density is going up. So where's the approval of that? You know, so the original approval on the original approval of the AR1, the density was the approval of our buildings. So now all of a sudden, the approval, whether you call them apartments or you call them condos, the density has now changed from the original intent.
Yeah, I'll refer to Bailey, but I don't think it changed like you're stating. That AR1 stated that you could put so many units on that piece of property. The people that built the condos decided not to use that much. The people that bought the other part decided to use it. Bailey, can you explain that to them?
Yeah, so when
But when it was, no.
Wait a
when
minute,
it
don't- we
was
didn't interrupt you.
approved-
Let her speak.
Okay,
So when the project was approved, it was approved under AR1, which means you can have up to 12 units per acre. So regardless of their intent, the developer of the condo's intent, they were allowed to have 12 units per acre.
mhm.
And so regardless of the density of the condos, that owner is not building this project. And so, you know,
So now you have a new owner that's going to do the 11.9 and go up to the maximum of the AR1, which is going to adversely affect everybody that's in the villas right now. So you're going to monetarily affect all of us that's in there right now. Because,
No, we are not doing anything.
well, when you approve what's going to happen in there.
By law, we have to approve what's going in there.
So, you know, when the land was, before the condos were ever put in, the land was rezoned to AR1. And regardless of whether it's condos or apartments or townhomes,
Mhm.
those are permitted under AR1 zoning. And so that's something that happened 15 years ago that we cannot change.
All right. So what is the village going to do then as far as you're going to, you can't change it, you're going to approve it. So now we have all of this traffic dumping onto the streets. You now have 80 units, you have 160, 178 parking spaces. You have all of that traffic. The streets now are terrible because you have the school. Now you have all of that. You don't maintain those streets now. We have potholes like crazy. So,
Your streets, you own your streets.
no, the streets of Leafy Dell
Okay.
coming in,
Yeah.
you have all of those because now you have egress now
That's true.
from those units
true.
going to go out there.
Well, we don't know that yet because the plans haven't been approved.
Well, you
we haven't
know they
seen
got
them.
to go out somewhere.
Yeah, they're probably going to go out Stonehenge Road.
Hmm?
They're going to have to probably go out Stonehenge Road Drive, not Leafy Dell. That's not a safe intersection.
So if you don't think they're going to go out Leafy Dell Road?
I have to approve the curb cut permit. So if it's up to me, no, they're not.
Okay, but they're still going to, I don't care what road you let them go out of, they're still gonna turn around and all of those cars are gonna go down Leafy Dell to get out to 37.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna have all of that traffic now on that road.
Absolutely.
So,
Assuming that the plans as you have the little diagram that you showed me when you all were here last time, assuming that that number is what is finally
submit.
approved for a permit to be built.
mhm.
That doesn't, we don't have to give them the number that they necessarily draw on a little piece of paper.
Okay,
Well, we have to give up to 12 units per acre.
Up to 12, but we could negotiate with them to maybe build less.
Absolutely.
And but we feel for you and we feel for all of the other condo owners. And we know the situation you're in, and we know the situation we are in as a village, and that our hands are somewhat tied by this ruling. We're trying to find some possibilities of things we can do that the developer may not particularly care for, that he
Okay.
may change his mind about doing that.
yeah, because it's not like the apartments up at the front of the community where there's a
I
big
know.
green space.
Right.
They're right up butting
They're-
right against us now.
Yes. And the drawing as presented, I don't particularly like it, quite frankly. And I think it's too many units. I don't see any stormwater basin.
Yeah,
Just
no.
off the top of my head, looking at it briefly. And I think those are all issues that are gonna have to be discussed.
Dust and stuff.
And most of some of that discussion is gonna have to be in public, and you all are welcome to come sit
Alright.
here and listen.
Yeah, I didn't think that this as they.
And
drew
whatever
it could
kind of
get
buffer
approved.
that they're gonna put in between, let's say they do build some of these buildings. We're gonna require a buffer between your properties and theirs.
Okay.
And, you know, it's not gonna be all hunky dory and they just stick them up wherever they want. We're gonna have a say in this. And they're certainly not using your roads, which are your roads.
Yeah,
I understand you had a meeting with somebody and they said, we're gonna use your roads. No, you're not.
hmm
And you all better stick to that. Cause that's certainly what we're gonna tell them.
we feel the same way.
I understand that. And they're certainly not using the existing retention pond there because that doesn't belong to them.
No, it doesn't.
Where does your stormwater go? Do you know? Because I don't see a pond here for the condos. It was designed to,
I'm not sure.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks. Who's next? All right.
My name's David Cool and I live at 108 Maple Leaf Drive. Surprise, surprise. I have 9 things that you're going to hear about at
Okay.
some point or another.
All
I'm
right.
not going to go through them. I'm going to tell you what they are.
Okay.
And then we can talk about that some other day.
Okay. That's fair.
The Carolyn brought up the thought that we know that AR1 is a broad stroke, and that if that's what you approve one day, retrospect, it's probably a bad idea when you focus on our situation. But it's here and it exists, and we'll deal with that. We have one of our enterprising owners took an overlay of their planned development and put it on our existing property. And there are so many places where it either sits on our street or it sits in an easement, or it sits, one building or another sits on a sewer line or a gas line, or there are so many, that place is like a jigsaw puzzle. And their buildings don't belong where they're at. So keep that in mind, because we're going to be sending you letters probably about that kind of thing.
Okay.
We have serious concerns about the lift station capacity. As you know, the sewer goes down the hill and then it has to get lifted back up to make the use of gravity to come back this way. Someone needs to pay attention to the engineering on that original lift station, which was not intended to have another extra units in it unless it was over-engineered. Pay attention to that, because we're going to pay attention to it. The density effect, we've already talked about density, but there is a direct relationship between density and safety. And the safety is a broad definition. Traffic flow is already, every time school starts up, traffic flow, primarily caused by our good and diligent parents, gets worse the more people that are there. And if you're trying to get to work and you're trying to get through the traffic, I feel for people, and that is an issue. You didn't deal with it when the school opened because the Board of Education threw you a curve. And they allowed the parents to come all the way around the school and come in, go back out. That was a
Yes.
mess.
You're the
Yes.
first
So
one-
you,
You're the first one that's ever recognized that happened in this building.
thank you. There, the points of view. If you're sitting on your patio and you're looking at any one of those buildings right across the street, which is from here to Jack, there isn't a pretty sight among them.
No.
Okay.
I agree with you completely.
Therefore, we're going to be jumping on both feet, since we know there's probably going to be something over there. And whether it's condos or whether it's something else, they've already told us, well, they could be condos. Well, no, they're not condos, they're apartments. And mathematically, I could tell you all about that, but we don't need to. We're going to be looking hard at shielding, blind spots, fencing. We talked about living fence of some kind or another. We haven't decided, but we know something's got to go. The lower density of buildings, I mean, if density becomes a problem more than I'm just saying that it is, why not cut one of those 2-story buildings in half? You know, you could always go with a 1-story building or nice little places that have a better look to them. That's one simple answer. Setbacks are really inconsistent. We're set back 25 feet. But if you look at their plan, I don't see 25 feet hardly anywhere, but maybe there is. And of course, everybody that comes here with an argument says, well, I'll wait till the election time. You know, you need to not just say, well, we wash our hands of this. You better dig in and think about some of the folks that are in your face because there isn't anyone I've talked to who likes this. You're dealing with a real mess of stuff. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
your diligence.
And
You have questions?
no, I don't have a question, but I'll comment on your comment that we are aware. We are, as I'll speak for all of my fellow council members, that we are aware. We're trying to sort our way through our side of this. We hear you loud and clear, as amongst other folks in town that have brought this to our attention, and they're not happy either.
I
You
know.
have lots of friends out there,
That's
and
good.
I've heard from a lot of them. And
We'll hear from more.
and I hear it, and I want to help, and I'm not happy about what they have proposed to do here. And you know, we'll do all we can within the rules to help come to some meaningful accommodation, if that's the right word. I don't know what the right word is.
Any of those words are fine.
That solve your problem. You shouldn't have to be looking out at your kitchen window at some damn parking lot filled with a bunch of cars and the other building right up next to you. That's just not right. And I speaking for this councilman now, I'm not going to let that happen. If I can do anything to stop it and to reconfigure it, make it better, both from your side and their side, whatever their side is, because we don't know yet. And I don't know if anybody else wants to add to this, but
Question. for David.
sure, I'm
Okay, you're right.
I'm rambling.
David, could you explain to me what you meant about the elections?
Oh, about the election? Well, if there's a presumption out here that you all are not defending the existing members of the community, then your political life is in jeopardy. I'm not saying I'm going to do anything. Sorry?
I'd like to answer that to you, David. You're a friend.
Yes.
I went out of my way to cooperate with you people up there and try to give you some advice and stuff.
Yes.
I do not make my decision on a threat of election. I'm disgusted with you mentioning that. I don't do it as the rest of us. We do everything we can to help you people. And you come in here and tell us you want to, every one of you vote against me, I don't care. I'll still work for you. But I don't like being threatened.
That's fine with me.
Well,
Don't consider,
it's right of you to do it, David.
don't consider it a threat. It's a reality.
Well, reality is that Ogden is going to build there too.
I'm sure of it. The question is, are they going to build it to anybody's satisfaction? Or are they going to shove it down your
I
throat?
don't know. We'll wait till the election and find out.
All right. Don't worry. One last comment, and that is that the administration here has been very cooperative with us. They have provided us the information, and so have you. You've provided with information on the background of what goes on here, and I appreciate that.
Well, I don't appreciate your comment, David.
Well, I know. We love you anyway.
Well, just make sure you vote against me.
Jim.
Cheryl, you better
Bailey.
take him home and give him some Valium or something. He overstepped his grounds when he started threatening us with elections, I think. I'll shut up.
Anyhow, okay, we'll ignore that part and move on, but we appreciate your comments. They have been heard.
Yeah.
I
And they're not made up.
made notes. I've got notes here.
Thank you.
And we will continue to be as transparent with everything. So by all means, contact Bailey. She can get you whatever information we have. I always tell people in these situations, we will give you an answer that you may or may not like, but it is the answer, and we have to follow the rules and the codes that are set forth before us. So we will always give you an answer. You just might not like it, or you may like it. So.
Hi, thank you.
Yes.
My name's Laura Gallagher. I'm a homeowner in Leafy Dell. I think we should start by all taking a deep breath. I do want to thank the council very much for allowing us to come and express our concerns.
Absolutely, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you. I actually, this is my second village council meeting. I came when there was a proposal to make Leafy Dell one way, which you guys listened to our concerns. So we are grateful for
Yeah.
that. I understand this is a concern. I mean, I've only lived in Johnstown 3 years. I came from Hilliard, which is basically Columbus. So I grew up in a small town. I understand that small people, I like living in a small town. I love living here. It's peaceful, it's quiet, it's safe. I understand people don't want to see growth sometimes. They want to hang on to that heritage. You know, I get that. But I also get that economic development is good. It increases the tax base. You know, it's inevitable. Columbus is expanding. Johnstown is going to expand. I see both sides. And I understand people need a place to live. Not everyone can afford a home. I rented an apartment for many years. So I get that there is a need there. And I am asking, as I'm sure all of the residents here are, as it sounds like you guys are in tune with, that, you know, ideally, I'd love to see this not happen, but since it's going to inevitably happen, we just want to make sure it happens thoughtfully and considerately, and some of our concerns are addressed. The biggest concern, which is the elephant in the room, I don't even have to say, is the traffic. Every day, twice a day, you know, Leafy Dell comes to a stop. I've had Amazon drivers trying to deliver stuff saying like, what's going on? I can't get to your house. I was late for an appointment one day. I had to stop at home. I had to drive in the, you know, wrong way on ongoing traffic. Otherwise I wasn't going to make my doctor's appointment. So, I mean, you guys all know about the traffic. So I think it's really important that they look at, is there a way to add, you know, another street, some other easement in and out of the community? I know there was talk of maybe that a traffic light might be added. That may or may not solve the problem. It may just create gridlock. So obviously, I'm sure you guys are going to consider that, but I just want to point out that for me, the traffic is the primary concern. Another concern I have is the potential for flooding. I live right on the circle, right by the big field, by the school. And every time there's a rain, even if it's not a hard rain, there's this giant puddle that forms in the field, and it usually takes a couple days for it to dissipate.
Which,
I think that's a storm pond.
which field
Is
are
it-
you talking about?
Like the lacrosse field. Like I'm really close to the main entrance.
I think that's a,
Left.
On the school grounds.
Yeah, it's on school grounds.
I think that's a storm pond.
Yes.
It is a storm pond.
Designed.
It was designed to do that.
It's designed to pull up
Designed to flood.
and then
Go down
dissipate.
and release.
Okay.
yes.
Then that, okay, I'll check one item off my list then. Yeah, because
At
my,
least it's working.
okay, because
Good.
my concern is, you know, if you have hard surfaces, you have less absorption, is that, you know, disappearable pond going to become a
Right.
permanent pond, or is my basement going to flood? So that's, okay, well, thank you for that. The other concern is, and I don't know if this is correct, but I had heard on next door that the retention pond that is kind of behind the condos, like the insurance on that is paid through by the homeowners association. So if you have apartments in here, are these residents going to have, you know, is that going to increase the risk by having more people closer to a retention pond, you know, with the idea that more people, hopefully never this would happen, but, you know, some child could get in there and drown, or, you know, is that going to cause the insurance rates to increase, which will have to be picked up through the HOA, which means the HOA dues will increase. So that's another thing that, you know, potential to look at. And then finally, I think just like people mentioned about density, I understand we need growth, but you know, if you have excessive density, you have more people in a constrained area, you know, you have more children playing, you have cars go through there pretty quickly. I worry about a kid getting hit, or children with not a lot of green space and not a lot to do, maybe running around, you know, getting into mischief, that kind of thing. So these are all concerns. But again, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak today. And I hope that as you have these ongoing discussions, that we'll be able to give our input as the plan develops. And-
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Do you have any questions for me?
No,
All right.
not for me.
Do you know if the condo association, homeowners association has met with the homeowners association for Leafy Dell?
I do not know, because apparently we have 2 HOAs. I didn't know that till, I've only lived here 3 years. So apparently we have 2 HOAs. For a while, people were like, where's the HOA? I haven't heard from them. So honestly, I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's important. I think it's a good idea that both HOAs do meet and
We'll
discuss
have
this.
2 HOAs for the housing and 1 for the condominiums, I
Yeah, there are
believe.
3 altogether.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in the housing part, so I don't know what has or has not happened, but I agree. I think that
I
definitely
think
all.
a united front, and I speak as a resident of Leafy Dell.
Mhm.
No one in this room has lived in Leafy Dell longer than my wife and I.
Mhm.
We've been there almost 21 years.
Nice.
So we've seen everything. So you do have somebody on council that is fighting for that. And all of us up here, it's not just about density of people moving in, but the other thing that we've really strived over the last 1.5 or 2 years is working hand in hand with the schools.
Mhm.
Because when you add density, not only people moving in, but those that may have families or starting families, that's going to put a squeeze onto the schools. So
Sure.
we do understand, everybody's discontent of what they've thrown at us preliminarily. But I feel that if the HOAs, all 3 HOAs would come together and meet and have a meeting, and express everybody and come together as a united front towards that developer, that may hold a little more weight than what we really are going to be able to do from this front. That was all done 20 years ago when Pauline Chambers owned that. So yeah, I've been in touch with that. I've known Marvin was one of the first people I met when I moved in, because Amy and I had the 8th house built in that development, and he was kind enough to come over and introduce himself. And so I've known Mr. Block for a very long time. And yeah, so you do have people here all through the village. You have a great staff. The village, we understand the concerns. We hear your concerns. And please don't think that we're just sitting here thinking, I'm going to wash my hands if I don't get reelected next year. I've been a public servant for 27, almost 28 years. Those of us who are public servants, you're a public servant for a reason. Not everybody is cut out to be a public servant. Not everybody wants to hear that, but that is the truth. We take that. It's our job. It's my job to sit here and make the right decisions that benefit the most residents that we can. Does that make everybody happy? No. Does that happen on a daily basis? Yes. So sitting on this side of the table for almost 30 years, I can tell you I've seen the good, the bad, the indifferent. And you have to approach it at that. But I want everyone to know in Johnstown that the staff that you see here, the elected officials that you see here, Jim has done a great job assembling a great staff. We don't like it any more than you, but we're kind of bound, by what the Supreme Court has said. When that ruling came out and they allowed that to happen, that hurt. So we're going to try. I mean, we're going to have to be a united front. We can't have discontent between any of the HOAs and the village. A developer come in and they'll see it. They'll pick right up on it. So the more that we can have open communication and everybody understand that, yes, we want to kind of slow that down as well. That we are on your side. Please understand that.
So I really appreciate you saying that. And the fact that you live in Leafy Dell means you're my new best friend. But what are the next steps as far as having that unity, getting those? I mean, can you guys reach out to the HOAs? Is it our responsibilities?
That I think collectively you would have to reach out to the president of your HOAs, let them know, find out when the next meeting is, or even ask them if the HOAs can contact each other and get a meeting scheduled. That would be my first thing that I would do.
And we can give you the representative's information.
That would be great. Because I don't know where to start. Like, who are they?
Yeah.
That would be great.
The attorney representative, it's Connie Klima. I've known her for a long time. She's always open to suggestions. She'll never, at least in my experience,
She represents the developer.
She represents the developer, but she's not hard and steadfast, at least in things I've dealt with her at the county and other projects that we've come across each other. So it's not like she'll just stand there and tell you no, unless she's changed. Maybe I shouldn't vouch for her, but she'll at least listen and try and do what she can to make it a better situation for everybody.
Can I respectfully request that you put that information in the village minutes, so we'll have it for later? Of the HOA.
The condo HOA has her information, and Leafy Dell 1 president HOA has her information. I do not know the president of Leafy Dell 2 HOA.
Is that Andy Burney?
Andy Bruni is the president of 1. And so he has her contact information, and the condo association has her contact information.
Is it still Miranda?
I don't know.
I think it is.
Oh,
She wasn't She wasn't requesting a meeting with Connie.
No, I was just requesting the information. Like if some of us,
For
if
the HOA.
we need to reach out to the HOA and you know who they are,
Kaylee can get it to you.
they like, okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, I know I've used more than my 5 minutes. So again, thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
And
And
thank you.
if any of our Leafydale residents here know the president of condo association homeowner association number 2,
I don't, Bailey, I'm sorry.
who, if anybody finds out, you can send me their contact information and I'll make sure to
Okay.
send them the contact information as well.
And next steps as well. We get a packet. Council gets a packet every 2 weeks, or planning and zoning gets it. If you want any of those agendas or packets or minutes or anything, talk to Teresa, clerk of council. She can fill your inbox every Friday with some nice reading material, but it at least gives you an idea of what's on the agenda, whether it's specific or not. We always have these I'll set open mic night.
Or no
Public comment period during these meetings as well. So that's the best way to know what's going on, is to get a hold of Teresa and get on that email list.
I can tell you that there's more than 2. I was told by the people that are currently building homes near 62 that they're HOA number 4, and that there's a 3 on the other side.
If you don't.
There are more than 2. I had heard at least 3.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Oh,
there.
Yeah.
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 Well, I heard 4 plus us. So
I'd
the
heard
only
that-
one that's active is HOA 1.
Right.
HOA 2, I reached out to both of them, 1 and 2. And HOA 2 is pretty much non-existent. It's been 6 months since anybody's posted anything on their site. HOA 1 has constant activity. So they have a manager on HOA 2. So he's probably the right person to contact, because he is the one that goes around and yells at
Well, if
everybody.
you can share that information, I guess, with, let's do that.
And I've got a relative that lives in HOA 2. But the new people have told me they are HOA 4, the ones that are being built close to 62.
Croton Road.
Croton Road.
In Croton
No,
Road.
the other side. The side closest to 62 is
Very back.
HOA
Oh, on the
4.
very back.
Against the Michelson.
And the
against
new ones
Michael's.
being built closer to Croton Road is HOA 3.
Yeah.
I'm Mary Queen Cool, and I'm a condo resident. And Marvin, I do appreciate you because I've known you forever too. So we all do. And zoning, we appreciate what they've been trying to do. And we talked to several of you 2 weeks ago when the power was out, and you were very helpful. I don't want apartments over there, but I understand the zoning. I'm good with that. But I think we should do the best we can do and get the best result. I like zoning's comment that they would look at green space, they would look at the rural character of Johnstown and try to push that. I think that's very important, because a whole bunch of apartment buildings right in the middle of the development is not gonna look good, period. Traffic, congestion. It doesn't matter where you send them, they're gonna make a left turn across 2 lanes of traffic to get on Leafydale Drive. I've already been in an accident at 37 in Leafydale Drive. It's almost impossible to get out of there, especially when everybody drives an SUV. So now we're gonna have that one intersection up. Everybody's either gonna turn left at that stop sign, and it's always gonna be their fault. And all those school people and all the rest of the traffic that'll be on Leafydale Drive is just a disaster. Plus, you've got kids that are gonna be trying to cross there. So all of that's gonna really create more headaches. I agree, Leafydale Drive, the road, I'm already close to hitting the curb trying to avoid all the potholes. Because there's so much more traffic back there. But there's key potholes and ridges everywhere coming in Leafydale Drive, but not a surprise since we have so much traffic back there now.
Our road is just fine. Our little private road, no issues. We're fine there. Noise is a big concern. I can sit on my patio, and luckily I do not face that field. And I don't hear a sound except birds and maybe the little boy across the street with a basketball. That's it. We put 80 units, majority of which are 2 and 3 bedroom, will be a lot of kids. And if we don't fence or do something, the closest safe place for those kids to play is on our road, on our property. So we don't want that. We don't want the kids over there. We don't want the bikes over there. We don't want to take a chance of hitting one of them. So the noise and the fact that the kids are all going to go there unless we fence ourselves in, which is a big cost that we shouldn't have to put up with, but we'll deal with it. Safety, I think the number of police calls, lots of bikers, the number of police calls at the apartments by any comparison to the number of police calls at the condos is probably, I don't know that the police have ever been to the condos. So even though there's going to be 4 or 5 times as many of them, I have a feeling we'll see the police there on a regular basis. That's not good either. Green space. I hope there's going to be more than that little teeny dog park, because that's a lot of kids that have to play among the dog do. So I know they're going to go somewhere in the streets or over on our property, one or the other. The schools, I can't believe they're not upset because, again, these people have kids. They're going to be going to the school, and we're going to have more traffic going around that little circle because kids just don't walk. Hardly anybody walks. They all are driven. That's about it. Totally 100% against them doing anything over there that resembles apartments, especially towering over us.
Heard you loud and clear.
I would have
Thanks, Mary.
2 comments real quick. if that's all right.
Ben?
Just two quick comments. Jim, I don't know timeline, or Jack, with just to call it out since it was somewhat mentioned as a tertiary piece, the 37 and Leafy Dell interchange, what the timeline is for that. Is it 2023,
No,
2024,
27.
27? I thought it was moved up several years because a project fell off.
I think it went from 29 to 27. I can find
Or
out.
is that Croton Road? 27, or excuse me, Edwards Road.
Edwards is 29.
Edwards Road.
So then,
It's the
so
big
then this is
rebuild.
27.
This is 27.
27.
The upgrade to the upgrade there on
To the
37.
intersection with Leafy Dell.
I feel like it's sooner because we're talking about putting money aside for engineering and stuff starting next year.
Well,
that
yeah, that part, but I
was a
mean,
3-year
construction.
lead time. It was a
What
3-year
we're,
lead
what
time.
we're talking about amongst ourselves up here, we got a long range plan. That plan calls for a new interchange, or not an interchange. new
Intersection.
Intersection there, hopefully, in 27. And they're just talking about trying to get it moved up. And yes, Mary, that would be our favorite. Roundabout.
Yeah, roundabout is what we had applied for funding, and we can always dial it back if we need to and say that we want to go to a mechanized, intersection like we have most other places. But the roundabout has the higher initial price point, but the lower long-term maintenance cost. So it's more of a favored.
Slows
It's
the
a
traffic.
larger footprint, which also complicates things a little bit more. Point is, there is a long-range planning for an intersection there at Leafy Dell on 37 that will come to fruition soon. Say soon, relatively speaking.
Yes.
Typically, yeah, it slows it down.
But it moves it, but it it slows the traffic
Yeah,
down.
slows it down, but it moves the traffic.
Moves
sooner.
it.
You
Consistently.
don't have the
Yeah,
blackouts.
it's
Yep.
moves it.
It's a larger footprint.
Guests online are not able to hear any of your comments. So if you have more, I would ask that you just walk back up to the mic, please.
I get the question to reiterate was whether or not just confirming that the roundabout, thank you, Teresa, the roundabout moves traffic quicker than a regular four-way intersection, which is confirmed that.
And we are looking at roundabouts in general.
Yes.
Because they are much less expensive to maintain
Long term, correct.
long term, because every one of these mechanical, electronic things, these big boxes you see by a traffic light, those innards wear out. And the mice get in and the critters go in and eat the wires, and and it costs a fortune to replace those electronic units.
I think that's called
So,
electronics in there instead of innards.
yeah, well, and you know what I mean. But that's why we're looking hard at roundabouts. And if you'll notice, the Franklin County, Licking County, Newark, everything is going to roundabouts. So
Yeah, it is a larger, that was the other question. It is a larger footprint. But to accommodate semi, traffic that would hopefully be bypassing the villages.
but
that are coming
unfortunately, we
through, but
can't
could
get
be
to
coming
that part
through.
that's right by your houses that to be included in the roundabout. So we'll have to figure it out.
But that's the conceptual drawing we put together when we applied for funding for that we have a good amount of funding set aside for that for us from Licking County going forward. So I wanted to just put that piece out there to remind everybody, because it's a piece that continues to come up, and it's a long range plan. We had to put it out there several years ago, and it's still several years to go. But that is something based off of feedback that we had received, obviously, from the increased amount of traffic over there at the schools. But secondly, I just wanted to comment on the green space, because I made a similar comment when I think it was last week's planning and zoning, when it was brought up, and continue to stand by that comment that green space is incredibly important in our community, incredibly important in my mind. Again, I'll bring up the Western Licking County and the rural feel that document lends itself to want to sustain, and I absolutely believe that. And I think when you look at the as it's been the back of the napkin type drawing that has been proposed for that space, that doesn't look to align wholly with all the specific property lines and setbacks and easements and sewers that's been brought up tonight. To me, yeah, there's a lack of green space, and for me too, green space isn't green space to take up a percentage on a piece of paper with respect to how much you're putting out there relative to what's being built, so much as it's usable green space for what that is being applied to. So there needs to be green space, because that rural feel is what defines the community, both inside and outside, and it needs to be maintained. So green space, from my opinion, will continue to be emphasized when this plan is looked at. If you have a comment, if you could just.
While Cheryl's coming up, I'll make a comment. Occasionally you'll get a developer, I'm not saying this one, a developer will ask for a lot more than he knows he's going to get. He's asking for 80. Maybe he really wants 50 or 40 or 60. But he asked for 80, and then he's got some bargaining power when he comes into the fold. So,
Well, my name is Cheryl Cool, and I live with that lughead that was up here earlier. That was part of the question, because they have so many units per acre. Then you introduce the green space. How does that affect the units per that acre?
Sure, and any area that deviates from what's being proposed right now that would be non-buildable, as in green space, would decrease that density. I know right now the closest crosswalk would be Parkdale and Leafydale to get across Leafydale. There's another playground over on the other apartment area. So there's a concern about pedestrians across Leafydale as it stands right now, as it's being looked at. I think that was brought up tonight. I think that's absolutely a sound assessment of what could happen over in that space. It needs to be something that is vetted and discussed when this comes to whatever approval process, either within the administration or within planning and zoning. So to that end, in my opinion, there are a couple of these things that I hadn't thought about, but there are a lot that have been brought up, and being a representative on planning and zoning will make sure that they're brought up because they are sound arguments and sound points that need to be represented and have answers applied to them at some stage.
Confirming your comment about the Edward or the roundabout. It's state fiscal year 26, which would be July of 2025.
So it was, that's what I figured.
That's
was about
construction.
3 years out.
That's construction.
That's construction.
That's great.
Might, because those are constraints up there, the roads, it might not be a roundabout, it might be a round egg. I have to put it in egg shape.
An oval, sure.
An oval.
Yeah.
It-
Roundabout, yeah.
Microphone.
Thank you. Yes, you should.
One comment, just to make everyone aware, Miranda only has 2 more lots that they can sell. And they will be completely built out. I would say by January next year or February, they'll be gone from Leafy Dell. So all the dump trucks and all the equipment and all the workers and all that will be out of the area.
So all of their lots.
Golden Pond has 2 lots left. Green Acres is 100% sold out.
Okay.
They haven't dug 2 more holes they're waiting on, but everything will be in the works.
Great.
Thanks, Jim.
Anybody else?
Thanks, Jim.
We want to make sure everybody gets an opportunity.
Yes, sir. My name is David Skolnick.
Hey, Dave.
I'm a new resident of Johnstown. Glad to be
Welcome.
among you. Recently retired from Ohio Health and moved here from New Albany.
Okay.
Second day I moved here, I found out this was happening down the street. And we were all kind of taken aback by it. I am basically here to ask some questions because I'd like to know where I might find the answers. For instance, is any of this government funding for apartments, is any of it low income? Is any of it Section 8? And
No, I was told 1 bedroom is like 1,300 a month. I don't think there's any subsidies whatsoever.
No, not that I'm aware of.
And also equally concerning, who's going to be, how is accountability going to be addressed for these tenants? I recently left a property because I saw what effects multiple housing had on the property by the lack of concern and security that was put upon the new tenants. And the consecutive fall of property value. That's concerning to me. It's concerning to all of us, I'm sure. And I'd like to know, of course, you realize you guys are gonna have to carry the load because, you know, you're our leaders and you're our police force.
That's what we're there for.
Yes, sir. So, what type of procedures are going to be set in place? Guarantee these people don't move in relatives who are unwanted, don't sprawl.
You're asking us something there that's completely out of the realm
Yeah.
of our abilities here as council people.
Understood.
I can't come up to the condos and tell you that your grandkids can't come in.
Mhm.
That's up to the condo association and the owners there, just like an apartment. I don't know how the other apartments up in Leafy Dale are run. Aren't they run pretty good now? The other side of the street? You have. Well, anyway, we can deal with that as it comes about, but basically you're asking us if we can control what it's the landlord's problem. I have rental properties and it's my problem when they get out of hand and you have to jump through so many hoops and stuff now, but I just go see them after dark and I'm gonna shoot them if they don't.
Marvin, you can't do
Can I do that?
No.
I was just giving you fixed issues. But depending on the cruiser calls or police calls and stuff like that up there, but I haven't seen Cogwin really have a a lot of problems up there, these problems. They had for a while and then they got cleaned up, didn't
Yeah, there's two things that are two mechanisms, I should say. Jim Blair is our property maintenance code supervisor. I just totally butchered your title, Jim. I apologize. It's been a long day, but he does stuff with that. And then our brand new police chief is very active and very concerned about the safety of everybody. So a phone call to him and he'll be there as quickly as he can if there's issues. So there's two mechanisms that we have control of in the village. I agree with Marvin, you know, who's in and who's out. No, we can't control that obviously, but if there is issues, our police department will take it serious. Council later tonight will vote for funding for another police officer in the budget, you know, so they do take that seriously as well. So those are the two services that we provide, quote unquote, as a city, as a village, soon to be city.
That was part of my attraction of Village. And secondly, my concern is, you've addressed that here, you're going to be paying some close attention to the design. I understand light pollution. You know, this was one of the fewer places I could see the stars, and you know, put a lot of money into the area because I liked it for the quiet and the lack of congestion, the village atmosphere. And I'm certainly hope that you guys maintain it. Because I'm happy to be here and I'd like to stay.
I just received a message from the chief saying he's on the call, but his cell phone service isn't the best, saying he doesn't have any more calls from the apartments than he does the single families. So it's concurrent to what the single families are.
unit.
Sure.
He doesn't have any more calls from
Understood.
Apartments than he does from the.
Understood. Well, naturally, you know, we're all concerned with safety. We're also concerned with environment and impact on our investment. Because naturally, property values fall when low income or multifamily residences are established. So thanks for working with us. I look forward to seeing how we progress.
Welcome to Johnstown.
I think,
Thanks.
I think from what they put on the napkin, what you'll see the finished project, you're gonna see a radical difference. We can't promise that now, but
We're gonna
that's all
try.
stay on top of it.
All right. Well, just wanted to get my
Thank you.
2 cents in. Thank you.
Rent up there is gonna control a lot of what type of person is getting that sewer people. $1,500-$1,600 a month renters for an apartment.
More than my mortgage.
And
Yeah, I just, with respect to the lighting, that's absolutely a valid concern. Down lighting off of adjoining properties has been a consistent feedback point that has been given from planning and zoning with respect to what's in our current ordinances, I believe, and most definitely what is being updated in our zoning, future zoning draft, as well as our design standards that we should have in front of us here within the next few weeks. So absolutely take that point home, because that's a very valid concern. And then the COA, certificate of appropriateness, with respect to the exterior modifications, how it's built, making sure that it's held to the same high standard as its surroundings are, be it the condos, be it the single family homes, the apartments, the surrounding area, try to match it to and hold it to that high standard. So that COA hearing within planning and zoning will be vital to that piece of it, just for your
Thank you.
future knowledge. And then finally, just a point of clarification, Jim Blair, zoning inspector, who helps enforce property maintenance. Just to kind of pull that.
Been a long day. Appreciate it, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, refuse are a concern that can occur where a dumpster is placed
Right.
regardless. So I'm sure that's going to be on your list.
Absolutely.
yes, the last thing you want to do is look at somebody else's dumpster.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I hear you.
Thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I
Doug.
did find a phone number for Leafy Dell Homeowners Association HOA 2. That's why I had my head down for a minute there. The company is called Associa, ASSOCIA. They are in Dublin, Ohio. Phone number 614-766-6500. And those were the only two HOAs that were listed, HOA 1 and HOA 2. There was not a name. I believe if you would call in and just ask them who the representative is on the HOA on the board, HOA 2 in Leafy Dell, they'll be able to give you that information.
Anybody else? Yes.
Just while he's walking up there real quick,
Yeah.
Marvin, if you could talk into your microphone when you're talking, we haven't been able to hear you for 15 minutes.
Who was that?
I didn't say anything worth hearing.
Just Marvin, we couldn't hear him. It was John Luke. I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry.
John.
Your dirt looks pretty good out there with your sidewalk.
Yeah, they did a really good job. I was impressed with the slope they got out there.
Okay, I'll talk into the mic. Thank you.
Jim?
Just point to this gentleman here. We have Redwood Apartments. I don't know if you're familiar with those. They're on Jersey Street. There's 94 single level units there. The rent for a 2-bedroom or 2-bedroom, 2-bath starts at $13.46 and goes up to $16.36. And I have never received a complaint about the Redwood Apartments. They're what, 5 years old, Jim? We did them about 5 years ago.
Sounds right.
And then you have the Coghlan Leafy Dell Apartments. I think the rent starts at $1,090 now. No, less? For the 1-bedroom? Okay. So those, what I wanted, my point with the Redwood is they have a waiting list. And they have a waiting list, but most of them are full of younger people too. But there's only about 6 children in there. And the Leafy Dell Apartments has just a handful of children. I wouldn't worry too much about the amount of children that you'll have in the new apartments.
I think the Redwood area is really different than what's over in Leafy Dell. And I know people that live over there, and the maintenance people there change their light bulbs. They clean their ceiling fans. People in Leafy Dell have to fight tooth and nail to get something done in those apartments. So they're definitely not anywhere close to each other. Redwood is run well, and people won't leave because, other than the high rent, but they won't leave because they're taken care of over there. And they upgrade them constantly. Yeah. But inside and outside, I mean, they do an excellent job over there. I just wanted to say, I reached out to HOA 1 and HOA 2 when this first started and posted stuff out there and next door and everywhere else I could find. And I told them we had already met with the attorney, our board, and they were going to, HOA 1 said they would set up a meeting. And last I heard, they were still working on it. So they're not being as willing to have that second meeting. I don't think our meeting went real well, other than the attorney telling us they would be using our roads. We had no say so. The HOA 1, a week before Memorial Day, had not had their meeting yet. And we're still trying to get it set up. So I don't know what the delay is, but they were very cooperative as far as wanting to meet with us, I think, just to see how quick they could roll over us or something. But in HOA 2, they don't respond to anything. So. But we
Thank you.
did try to get the word out, but you know, who goes to their HOA site on a regular basis to see what's happening in the community? So I don't know that we got the word out very well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mayor.
Anybody else? Council members?
Mayor,
Sharon and Chief.
Chief and Sharon?
Yes, listening to this, I am quite concerned, and I really feel for these people because Rice property, that's, you know, I don't know what's going to happen there. And why can't we have condos like we have in Concord Crossing? They're very nice, they're always maintained. And how do we, like these people build these apartments, how do we keep them from turning them into Section 8? That concerns
You
me
can't.
also.
You, Sharon, this is Jim.
Okay.
You as any private property owner can go through the steps to get anything turned into Section 8 or government subsidized housing. So it obviously the turn or the money turn on apartments is obviously better because it's higher density, but anybody can do anything with Section 8. Zoning does not preclude anybody from doing the proper steps through the Fair Housing Act to create equitable housing for other people. We can't do it.
I see. Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome, Chief.
Mayor, thank you. And this is more or less for the community members that are sitting in the office. And I apologize, I couldn't be there in person today. Little does the community know, but the police department does have liaison officers that are assigned to the management of the apartments. So those apartment managers, they want to know what's happening with the community, and they want to keep their communities as safe as they possibly can, as much as we want to keep the community safe. So at the request, we do provide them with reports on units that we've come to that may have a concerning act that might happen at that resident. In addition to that, I'm also starting a new program where I'm working with the HOAs within the community, so that way an officer is physically present for a lot of these meetings. But with that said, it's also subject to manpower as well. So if you do have any questions or concerns, I do have an open door policy, so feel free to reach out to me anytime and stay safe.
Thank you very much. If that's everybody, we're going to move on. And let me just say, to conclude this section of things, that you're welcome back anytime. We appreciate you coming. It's sometimes lonely here in our meetings without people, and we like seeing faces of our citizens because it's important to us that we get some feedback, whether you smile or frown or, we've gone through a year and a half, whatever it was, of the COVID thing where we did things virtually. I can tell you, as the person who was, sometimes I referred to myself as the organ grinder with the monkey, running these meetings, it's nice to see faces, and we appreciate you coming. And we did hear everything you said. And we're going to move on.
You can't leave though.
Anyhow, now
Yeah,
you got to
please.
stay and listen to the rest of it.
Go home.
First up, we're going to do the council committee reports. And first up is planning and zoning. And I don't know, Bailey, you going to do a brief synopsis for us quickly?
Yes, at planning and zoning last week, planning and zoning commissioners considered an application for a map change on US 62. And that map change is from light manufacturing to GCC2, and that was approved. I did not get to the ordinance to add it to the agenda tonight, which is you're all probably thanking me for, but it will be on the next agenda. And then we talked about design standards, which planning and zoning has been doing a wonderful job on, and will probably be getting to you within the next couple weeks.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you very much. Any questions from council people for Bailey? Hearing none, we're going to move on. Safety and service met this evening. Ben, you want to go through that?
Yeah, several updates on construction projects around town that Jack will probably hit on as we get to some of the service reports and things like that. But let's see here. We went through our goals. Going to talk about moving to finance the bike path paving, parking lot paving to a finance meeting. Next one coming up here. We talked about re-engaging in the stormwater management program with Jack and working on getting letters out to property owners with the ponds. And then we also talked about the ordinance that we have on tonight that's already been referenced about adding in a new police officer to the staff here coming up. So that is actually an item that was covered in finance and safety and service. It passed both 3-0 to move forward with hiring a new officer with respect to how the ordinance was written this evening. That Chief can get into a little bit in more detail, and Dana, when we get to that ordinance coming up here. Other than that, I think that was about it for safety and service.
Questions for Ben? Safety and service. Any questions? Yes. not, we're gonna move on. Finance met, it's met a bunch of times.
It's met a lot.
Ben, that's you too.
Yeah, so we in finance on the 18th, before the power went out, we approved the plan to go forward to fund the sewer expansion analysis at $35,000 coming out of, I think we'd said the bonded monies that we have set aside for that. So that analysis will be coming very quickly because of the need for the sewer plant expansion. Then the power went out and we decided to meet 2 days later. So on the 20th, we talked about the Lexipol Police Department request that's an ordinance on for consideration tonight, as well as the updated well field and water plant expansion considerations, the well field report that again, Jack can probably talk about those couple items coming up, and then other various purchases through already approved monies for the fireworks event coming up. And then we had a special meeting on the 26th, just to round out 3 for the month, that talked about really the majority of that conversation was around the ordinance that's on tonight for the new police department hire, the latter part of this year. I think that was it for finance.
Any questions for Ben? We'll get to Dana when we do her report. Next up, economic development. Cheryl? You got to unmute yourself. I can see your lips moving, but I don't hear anything.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes, our next meeting is this Thursday at 10 o'clock. It's virtual meeting, and that's what's up next.
Questions for Cheryl? If not, we'll continue to move on. Park and Rec. Carol, do you have anything you want to share with us? She's shaking her head no.
No.
Okay, we'll hear from Park and Rec next time. How's that? Okay. Tree Commission met.
Yeah,
Mervin?
yeah, I got a small or a little report on that.
Okay.
They was talking about the dead tree, dangerous trees, and I made contact with Dawson's Arboretum and got several names call, and we discussed this at our meeting, and the tree commission was in favor of approving for this certified arborist to come up and look at our situation here in town. And that would be Main Street North and South, oak tree over in the dog park to be, and down in Rolling Meadows, what we can get out of him in 5 hours, didn't we approve for $85 an hour? And just before we go spend the money, it's already been approved, but I just wanted to let council know about that too. I'd like to establish, if we like the guy and everybody likes him, establish a rapport with him, possibly put him on as a consultant up here, our arborist for our trees and stuff. And the other thing that Dawson's Arboretum, when I talked to them, they were real happy about the mastodon site over here. And they are working on a plan to possibly team up with Johnstown, doing something with that mastodon site, such as planting trees and coming up and looking us over and seeing if they want to partner up with us on trees and stuff. So
be great.
And that's the last the tree hugger has to say tonight.
Okay. Any questions from Marvin? Okay, we'll move on. Events Committee, Ben.
Events Committee, again, 3 meetings here in May, trying to tie up all the loose ends with the fireworks event, the Independence Day celebration for the village, July the 3rd. Really between, just to summarize, really all 3 of those meetings, having had conversations with the Licking County Health Department, the schools representatives, JYAA, working out points of contact for each organization, Chief and Deputy Chief Smart doing a tremendous amount of work with the safety and security plan, since this is really the first time that we're approaching this event this way with the village taking the lead here. So making sure that we have this template to use go forward. And then what everybody's thinking day of, working to hammer out a list of food trucks, which we have 3 confirmed. And we will be sending out updates to that event that we have posted on Facebook with who they are. And then also trying to finalize day of scheduling for the live music and the entertainment, and the specific timing for everything. But it's going to be a fantastic event that's taken 2 years to plan. So it's going to be great. Just invite everybody down there, take a look at the details on Facebook. We'll probably have another meeting or 2 before we get to the July 3rd, just to finalize everything. But your community members are going to be participating in this. So it's going to be great.
Questions for Ben?
And we are not competing against Red, White, and Blue.
We're not competing.
No,
against
they
Red, White, and
canceled.
Blue, That's
The
right.
only thing I saw in the paper, we're only competing against Pataskala that night. I saw in Tim Bub's update, he had everybody.
Get it all
Like Heath,
there.
Heath is Friday night, so
Okay.
it's only us and Pataskala,
Us. Okay, that's good.
Good.
or not.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, I'm gonna add something in here, is that the mental health program that we did as a village was, I think, well received. Heard lots of good feedback from people. It's available online, so you can catch up with what happened that night and all of the various experts that we had that gave us some great information. It's all available online, and I urge all our residents to take advantage of that and take some time to watch it. You'll find it well worthwhile. The second thing I want to do is I want to thank the Legion and the auxiliary for the program they held to honor our veterans and those who gave the ultimate sacrifice yesterday at Green Hill Cemetery. It was excellent. I want to thank the high school band. I was honored to give remarks on behalf of all the council. And it was, I think, and it was very nice. And we don't thank the Legion enough for all that they do. And we're grateful for all of their help. And with that, I'm going to move to the director's report. Chief, you're first up.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to keep this very brief because there is a lot on the table tonight.
Good.
So basically, we ran 1,263 calls for service. I updated where we are now using a crime map to keep you updated with what's going on in the community. Mr. Leonard, he helped us out with taser training and did a fantastic job. And we installed the new car radios. They work fantastic. That was a budgeted item. I am open to any questions if you have.
Questions for the chief? Anybody? Any council members have questions for the chief? If not, thank you, chief, for all you do.
Thank you, Mayor.
And we'll move on. Next up is Dana, Finance.
Finance report. Yes, good evening. I'll make this brief as well. Through the month of April, we have collected $791,000 in income tax revenue, and that represents just under 35% of our 2021 budgeted income tax. And that represents a 20% increase from 2020 collections. So we are on the up and up, and everything is looking sunshine and rainbows. So, so I have my table there, which depicts all of the breakdown in the revenues by category, and nothing really, well, in April, we did collect $64,000 payment in lieu of taxes from New Day Farms, and that is included in the withholding taxes line. And we also received $60,000 as a bonus payment, which went to the water account. So that was a total of $124,000.
So the 64 is in the general fund, right?
Yes.
Yes. So just making sure that's on the record.
Incorrectly so.
It is in the general fund. Well, it's payment in lieu of taxes, so.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sewer money.
Anyhow.
Thanks, Dan.
Dana, you got more?
Sure. Let's see. No, I mean, if there are any questions, I mean, there's really not much on my report that is worth calling out. So if there's questions, I'll
Okay.
take them.
Questions for Dana?
Thank you, Dana.
Dana, thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Go above and beyond with a smile.
Okay, next up is Jack.
I won't be that brief as the previous two, but remember I have 3 reports here.
That's right.
Okay, we're gonna start with the street department report, and I will try to do the same, just hit certain highlights. I want to point out at the very top, we did put down 15 tons of hot patch. I know every meeting we come to, we say, well, where are you gonna get to those potholes? Well, we are, and the tonnage, as you will see in the graphs, is going up every year or every month as we're trying to get more of those potholes filled. Just as another point, we had a sewer service lateral problem on Jersey Street that we are getting corrected, that the street department is helping us very well with, and we are doing it without having to penetrate the street. So that is a much better solution than we originally started with, and it also isn't going to come close to the $57,000 that was originally estimated to make that repair. Under miscellaneous, the street department again, very busy. We got a bunch of calls about signs that were crooked that needed straightened. They got out and taken care of. We installed some new speed signs as well as trimmed some trees around those signs. Also, under the water maintenance section, we had a leak up in Khyber Run. We got that repaired without penetrating the street. That was another good job by that crew. And you can see here, they were marking out water lines and valve boxes for the sewer project, relief sewer coming up. So on the graph, basically, I just want to point out again, under asphalt, hours spent on asphalt from April, 44 hours to 230 hours working on patching the last month. So that was quite an increase. Are there any questions for the street department?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
How many people do you have on the street department?
Well, we have Mike Guttridge, who is the supervisor on the street department, and then Mike Kane, Chris, David DeVore, and the newest young man, Bill. So there's 4.
4 and Mike.
Yeah, we had some summer help with mowing, but he's gone again.
Don,
Yeah.
Already?
do you think next year that we ought to have a budget would help if you had, because next year, if we're just gonna do the one Jersey project, we're gonna have more filling and stuff to do next year.
Well, staffing is always a problem because this time of year, we have all the mowing that we're doing. And, there was some talk, do you want to hire that out? But we bought the mowers to, we spent significant dollars to do that in-house. Obviously, the hot patching takes more than the cold patching group because you've got to cut it out, tack it, you're working it, you're rolling it in, tamping it in. And those guys also aid the water and sewer department, as we're very limited on staffing there when we have to make repairs or water line repairs. So the answer to your question is yes, staffing is a problem in the street department, and that does not even talk about snow removal and snow plowing. I don't know that we're going to have to handle 62 and 37 this year. I'm going to look at Jim. I am hoping not.
I hope not. By the time they certify it and NODOT gets a hold of us.
Well, we have we really didn't get enough in the budget for what that's going to take. So I'm hoping we don't take those streets over till 2022, but in 2022, that'll become an increasing strain.
By the time of snow, we should be in a new budget year.
Well, when we were younger, Chip, snow used to start in October and November.
I know. Don't.
Well, but no, I'm serious. I mean,
I
I've seen it come, and I've seen it come late. So I am hoping we're going to be in a new budget season before we have to take over that. But again, staffing with the street department does continue to be a problem. And a little farther in here, you're going to see staffing at the water department. We replaced one, but one man can't work 7 days a week on the night shift. We may have to have another man at the water department, and we'll discuss that in a second.
And I was going to bring that piece up too, as we're talking about RFP for or RFQ for RFP for the water expansion, and then knowing that we're going down the road here with the sewer plant, that we've got the operational accounts and those budgets that, as they look at this point, the way we have things broken out, they can handle additional staff if we need to start walking down that road at enough time to make sure that we bring them on so that they have sufficient knowledge, especially if it's going to be an individual moving to a second shift by themselves or something to that effect. So I just wanted to put that out there, that if additional staff is needed in those departments, that we can start looking at that sooner rather than later to making sure that they're up to speed.
Yeah, water and sewer, honestly, I've looked at those budgets, and I agree with you completely. As we sell more water, more money comes in, we can create more staff. Same with the sewer. My biggest worry is out of the general fund with the street department crew. We make more roads, we do more plowing, but just keeping up with the day-to-day work has been a task.
Something you guys can work on.
Yeah, absolutely. If street department is an additional look that we need to, I think from what we said in the last finance meeting when looking through the ad on for the police department, is that we feel like really at this point, the way things are trending as well, as the additional homes that are coming into the village, that we're probably conservative for 2021, just not knowing.
Yeah, because we're not maintaining anything in the Poldy development.
Yeah. So
At this time, that's a whole nother development we've got to look at.
There's a lot of upside. I think the other piece too, to state it on the record for I don't know how many times that we've said it, is that we continue to operate at 1%, which is far under what any of our other contemporaries are in the immediate region. And that also has its constraints. And we work very hard to deliver what we can within that 1%. So just keeping that on the forefront of thoughts with respect to the public consideration when we talk about these things. But absolutely, if additional staff is needed, I think we all know that services continue to increase when the population increases, and as it's been stated for others too, the price of doing business continues to go up, not down. So if that's something we need to continue to look at, absolutely. I think water and sewer were first in my mind because those specific line items in the budget. If street department is there now too, then we need to talk about that in finance.
You're very correct, but I really don't worry about the water and sewer because the money that's coming in easily supports that staff as we sell more water. Everything's priced into our per gallon number. It's getting that cut out of the general fund that for that staffing that I think about a lot. How much work can we get done versus the staff that we have.
My concern is I haven't talked to the staff or anything, but I observe these guys out as much as the rest of you do. But 10 years ago, we had to compare some of these people in this village to a stationary object to see if they was moving. Today, Jack's guys are on the run, and I'm telling you, by the time I get off during the day, I can imagine how dog tired they are. And people will not stay and be worked like that, especially when you're dealing with that hot patch and stuff.
It's a job.
Get out there on an 80 or 85 degree day, working with that hot patch. It's a pretty tough job.
Yeah.
It's not like working in Jack's little building down there with controlled atmosphere.
I knew that earlier praise would come back to get me.
Anyhow, questions for Jack
on the street?
Oh, you only did street? Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Now we're going to jump into water real quick. I'm just going to make 3 points here. Item number 4, we had training to fill out a new EPA requirement, which is a risk resilience assessment of our plant. We have to look at each important component of our plant, and rather a natural disaster would attack it, rather a terrorist would attack it, rather any type of violence. And this has really turned into, I don't want to call it a paperwork nightmare, but the operators, we have operators that run the plant, unlike Columbus, which, you are well aware of. There's not a whole room of people just working on these. So the operators are leaving their jobs trying to get this training and this paperwork done. So then you jump down to 7. It's kind of listed twice here, but we have to get this risk resilience assessment in by June 30th, that we have done it. And then we have to certify by December, I think it's 15th. So those guys are working hard on the paperwork end of EPA requirements right now. Also, just for your information, we have started flushing fire hydrants in the area. We always used to do that in the fall. The last 2 years, we haven't come close to getting these hydrants flushed. We know we have 425 because they're numbered, and I think we probably have close to another 80 that have not been numbered and are not even on our flushing list. So we are starting here in the spring. We're going to work clear through till next fall, maintaining and flushing our hydrants, trying to keep up. And our new night shift operator, we have about 3 to 4 hours of lap time before he takes over the plant and the midday guy leaves. So that's who we've got out there working on those every day. So in that lap time, he's getting that work done. I do want you to look at the graph. I think it's important. If you would look at May, now my graph is colored. I don't know, or it has colored lines. I don't know if yours is colored or in black and white. But if you want to look at 2021 for May alone, 16 million gallons produced, and that is because of the holiday. We didn't have the last, I think, 3 or 4 days on there compared to 2020 and 2019, under 14 million gallons produced. That's just to give you a little feel of where we're going on this. And during that hot stretch, we had 2 days that the plant ran over 20 hours. Well, summer's not even here yet. And that is a concern to us. Again, we produced right around 800,000 gallons, and the plant is only capable of 1 million gallons a day. So you will see a resolution, or I think it's an ordinance. Resolution, I'm sorry, to release the RFP. We'll talk about that a little later to get started on the construction of a new water plant. Any questions on water?
Yes.
Okay.
Hydrants. I saw the hydrants on there, so I had a question.
Yes.
First of all, you talked about the location. There's 80 that aren't on your list.
Yes.
Those should be incorporated eventually into the asset list that we're compiling. So it's not as if it's just knowledge that passes from one person to another. We'll have a list.
No.
As we go through this.
As they are added, there'll be a location. You can see it on the iWorks. We've opened up a new segment on the iWorks. So we have one group go out and maintenance them. And if you pull up the program, the hydrant, I think, starts green, turns yellow, and then when the actual flushing is done, it turns red. So when I'm sending a crew out, if it's a maintenance crew, he knows what ones have already been flushed. And then if I'm sending a flushing crew out, they know we've got new signs to let people know we are flushing. We're getting them posted on the roads because we've had complaints in the past. Well, there's water everywhere. But then as we get through this list of known, each hydrant has its own specific number. So we've got the new numbers to attach to the new hydrants as we continue our maintenance.
And have we found any issues yet in the ones that we've started flushing so far?
No. I think we're through the first 18. And because of our water usage and the limited, on those big lines, where we're getting 3,000, 3,500 gallons a minute when we're flushing hydrants, we can only do maybe 5 to 8 without bringing the plant to a position that we have to stop, because otherwise we're going to exceed operation hours. So far, no, our hydrants are in good working shape, but I am determined that we will get completely through the flushing and maintenance of all hydrants this year.
Great.
As soon as I get those done, I'll get on that storm pond thing.
Question,
Thanks, Jack.
Any more questions?
no,
Sewer department.
yeah,
Again, the plant is operating very well. You can see the percentages for removals on the constituents required by the EPA. We're doing a great job, 96%, 97%, 96% removals. And this is what, when Prime Engineer, we're out here the other day stating, hey, you know, we're doing a great job at that plant. We're going to get it worked out so we can have the expansion that they want. They're working on it on this time. But really, there's two things I want to point out in this report under the maintenance highlights. I don't know that you guys really understand, and I'm not saying that to be negative in any way, what these men do to keep the stuff moving here. These pictures are these guys down in one of the sewage tanks that's full of human waste is what's in there, repairing pieces of equipment that sit below the level of that human waste. So we had to drop it down in a John boat, balancing themselves, working with 16-inch pipes. We had to replace 2 flex joints that those work off of. They've been in there for almost 15 years and they just wore out. You know, and rented this other piece of equipment to lift over the walls and get them up and down in. And there on one of the pages, you know, there's Rick, who headed this project up out of the sewer department with great support from the street department. Again, when they're down there helping with this type of project, they can't be out working on the roads. There's where the numbers get into a little problem for us. But what a great job that they did in repairing and replacing this equipment with a 2-man staff at the sewer plant and, you know, support from the street department. I can't say enough for what they did, because first off, I don't know how many people would even get in the John boat and go down in that tank. I mean, seriously, it's something that a lot of people just say, well, I won't do that job. And they deserve every bit of recognition we can give them for that.
Yeah, I made the mistake of going down there late in the day and cracking a joke while three guys were in a boat for 9 hours.
Yeah.
Wasn't good. Wasn't good. So I do appreciate their work and Rick's work on that.
we all appreciate their work.
Yeah, because it's a tough job.
Much as we are doing the police department and doing lunch for them, we'd also like to do lunch for the sewer guys and the street guys who help them with this project that's in your report. So their lunch is on us, council members, and I'll pay it and then we'll all collect. But anyhow, lunch is on us and we appreciate their work. We appreciate seeing this because to hear about it is not the same as seeing it. These photographs helped a great deal.
Well, I wasn't pressing for a free lunch, and I'm sure.
No, and I didn't, but we appreciate them and we want them to know we appreciate them. And that's something we can do to sort of show that. And
well, that 9 hours down in there, those guys trying to balance themselves, working with that 16-inch pipe and those fittings.
It's amazing.
And tighten those bolts up and maintain their balance. And I'm telling you, it's a job. And those men really, they hit it that day, because to get it done in 9 hours with the size crew they have, I thought was amazing. I thought it was amazing.
Maybe it'd be a good idea for the mayor to send a thank you letter to each one of them for what they do.
Well, I mean, they know you care about them. They know that, but I'm just saying, I'm glad that we could get some pictures and show you, because, you know, a lot of people, oh, they work at the sewer plant. That's probably not a great job. That's a tough job.
But it's tough and it's necessary, and we do
necessary
appreciate.
job.
We appreciate.
But the thing is, what I'm talking about, the lunch and a thank you note for him, Jack. A lot of times being recognized officially means a lot to these guys that's out there doing that hard work. My opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You dictate the letter and Teresa will type it up.
Well,
I'll draft this.
Now, if we go to the, what I'll call the last page, you have two graphs there. On the septic receiving station, through Trillium Farms through the first 5 months, we are 1 million gallons of collection, not Trillium Farms, I'm sorry, New Day Farms. We're 1 million gallons ahead of what their minimum delivery should be through the first 5 months of the year. So I think that has proven to be a good item for us, but that's where we talk about not as much flow, but high strength stuff coming in. So, but that has panned out very well for us. And the last thing I want to show you is the bulk water station. Now it's in the sewer report because that filling station is at the sewer plant. Folks, take a look at where we're at on, now this is tankers coming in, filling with Johnstown water and going and filling swimming pools and cisterns. Look at where we are at compared to May of last year. And, you know, I thought April was huge. And May, I mean, this is kind of astounding. The amount of water that we're taking out of course, the water plant produces it, but the fill station is down at the sewer plant. This is amazing, the people that are after our product here. And another reason that we need to get that second water plant online.
Did you ever think of that? You go to the sewer.
I didn't know that I would ever see this. Oh,
Go to the sewer plant to get fresh water.
yeah.
Makes you question things, doesn't it?
Well,
It does a good job on filtration.
well, again, trying to be efficient, you know, there's a card reader and stuff down there. Instead of duplicating it, two places, we put it down there and only had one station instead of two separate stations to work with. Although I did get a complaint today, there's an hour wait between getting to drop off the sewage because I can't have trucks filling with water and sewage trucks dumping at the same time. There's an hour waiting line to get in to either dump bulk sewage or fill the 5,000 gallon tankers with water that they were hauling to fill swimming pools. And most of that fault will fall to Teresa today because she was getting her pool.
He mentioned that. He literally mentioned that. His first load was from Mount Vernon, and I said, why don't you just go over here to Johnstown? It's right down the street. Oh, good idea. And then he came back like an hour and a half later. He's like, well, I might as well have just gone to Mount Vernon. I had to wait an hour.
So in our thoughts, maybe in one of the new constructions, maybe we should expand our filling station, but that's on down the road. But an hour wait is unheard of. And this is the first year we've dealt with that, but I don't see it going away. So with that, I will say that's all on the wastewater. Any questions that I can answer on that end?
I know the meeting's running long, but is there going to be a point in time where we ever discuss that easement that they're wanting up there for that electric plant?
Yeah,
Somewhere down the road.
sometime.
27.
I don't know when,
That's a good year.
what committee wants to tackle it. But yeah, we need to.
Discuss it.
We can take it on tree committee.
True.
Or I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Any further questions for Jack? If not, thank you for all you do too. Jim, you're on.
Probably the biggest thing is the Old Horseshoe's leased out to a new restaurant owner. Just lease, no building transfer or anything like that. Nate Strom has left as Gurlick County's executive director, taking a similar job at Gahanna, which was fine and dandy for 2 weeks until Stephanie Bosco tendered her resignation today as the assistant director. I've been involved with the search committee of the new director, and it's going to get pretty sticky here for a while of who's handling our ED leads and whatnot. So the mayor of Heath and I are having a conversation tomorrow about what we do from our economic development lead standpoint and generation. So, but it is what it is. The CRA is being finalized with the Enterprise Center buyer. Bailey and I are working on the revitalization district, primarily Bailey, to get the extra liquor permits. I am curious about how the liquor permit transfer from the Horseshoe to the new person works, because that would be our third liquor permit for the Dora. So maybe we could have a Dora this year as well. Yes, Marvin.
She had to transfer that by July. Get it back in effect, or you lose it. And it's gonna go under the new one, I'm pretty sure.
Right. Yeah, so I'm really curious about that. Get that started. Bailey and I had a conversation with Retail Strategies, who works primarily to attract and attract and kind of tell you where your holes are in your retail business. Retail has never really been on the forefront of my mind, just because it's happened pretty organically, but we're supposed to be received. Did we receive any of that stuff yet?
No.
Yeah. So some marketing stuff. I don't know if the ED committee wants to tackle it or not, but yeah.
Read through it.
Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them, or?
Reached out to us. They reach out to us about twice a year.
Okay. I was just curious with it, how that generated.
No, it was a cold call. And like I said, I had never really done it. But for 30 minutes, we sat and listened to them. So if council's interested in that, there's services out there to attract retail. The Licking County TID submitted a $100,000 grant on our behalf. So I worked with them on Friday to get that finalized for the mobility hub. That's going to come down. It doesn't check the boxes that the TID typically looks at, but if ODOT likes the idea, they're going to give us the money, but it's not going to be based on merit because it doesn't meet those criteria, but it does meet creativity, ingenuity, kind of looking to the future. So I'm really curious to see what happens there. We formally have the $250,000 from ODOT, or actually through LCATS from ODOT, for the $250,000 of technology money, which will be available July 1. The great folks at ODOT do not know how to handle the project right now. They know it qualifies for funding. We're working on the nuts and bolts with Drive Ohio to figure out how it's going to flow. We worked with a private property owner on an MOU that's been signed for the mobility hub. And we've already met with Hall & Associates, HDR, Drive Ohio, and many others for the RAISE grant, as well as planning, as well as Senator Brown's congressionally dedicated or directed spending request, which is due June 9th. And Morpsey got a hold of me today. They want to include us in some planning grant dollars for the mobility hub as well. So that seems to be taking up a lot of most of the time.
We appreciate that. Questions for Jim?
I have a question. Jim, we didn't get the funding for East Jersey. Did they give any indication why we scored low? I mean, was there any feedback?
Not directly. I can share with everybody the scoring sheets. It's just an Excel. We didn't get close. I think the cutoff was 66. We scored a 57, which doesn't sound like much, but there's a lot of multiple scores in there. So I'll share with you the score sheet, and you can kind of just see where they scored us low on some things and higher on others. But we haven't had a verbal conversation with why we scored so low.
And another thing that's tough there, Cheryl, is if I'm remembering correctly, that 57 last year would have got us the project. So
88 was the top score this year.
yeah, so it's depending on who's grading and how those variables go. And it was a different group of people, obviously, this year than last year. And because I said last year, we saw that score initially, and we made some changes to the applications, and then we thought we were in good shape because a year ago that would have been funded at 57, but not even close this year.
Okay, thank you. It's disappointing though, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any further questions for Jim? If not, we're going to move along to legislation. And I'll update everybody that the tabled ordinance 07-2021 Jim is working on that with Chief, and it'll be back.
Yeah, hopefully June 15th, you'll see that amongst some other policy manual changes in a little package. We're gonna have at least one job description change as well. So it'll be a kind of a package of HR stuff.
Great. Okay, first up is ordinance 18-2021. An ordinance amending chapters 1155 and 1157 of the Village of Johnstown codified ordinances. And this one is the change to the general community commercial. Bailey, are you leading us through this?
Yes, this ordinance just moves gas stations from a permitted use to a conditional use in both GCC 1 and GCC 2. And this was driven by some environmental concerns, and just the village wants to have a little bit more background on those before we permit them.
Great. So this was introduced on the 4th. We're doing a public hearing and a vote tonight. So I'm going to open the public hearing. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I will entertain a motion from council.
I'll move to approve.
Ben has moved it. Do we have a second?
Second,
That was Carol. Thank you.
yes.
So it's moved and seconded. Discussion, any questions for Bailey or anybody else regarding this ordinance? Pretty straightforward, and we discussed it the last time. So hearing no further questions, Teresa, you want to call the roll?
Carol Robertson,
Yes.
Doug Laner,
Yes.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren, Sharon Hendren,
Yes.
Your vote counts, Sharon.
Yes, she's a yes.
got it. Carol Van Diest,
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher.
Yes. The ordinance is approved. Next up. It's ordinance 19-2021. An ordinance amending ordinance 34-20, the annual appropriation ordinance of the Village of Johnstown to approve necessary changes of appropriations. And this was introduced on the 4th. Tonight is a public hearing and a vote. And I'm gonna let Dana explain this one to us.
Thank you. This is for the legal fees that we have. We need to increase appropriations by about $30,000. Hopefully that gets us through the end of the year. And also for $4,500 for sidewalk and landscaping. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm gonna open it to public hearing. Comments from the public? Hearing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing. I'm gonna ask for somebody, I'll ask for a motion on this ordinance.
I so moved.
Marvin
Second.
has moved it and
I'll second.
Carol has seconded. And discussion, any questions from council members? Hearing none, Teresa, you want to call the roll?
Doug Laner,
Yes.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren,
Yes.
Carol Van Diest,
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson.
Yes.
Okay. The ordinance is approved. Next up, resolution 2021-18, a resolution to adopt the active transportation plan. Tonight is just the
Adoption,
adoption.
public hearing,
Uh,
adoption. All of it.
actually, this page is not right, but that's all right.
Do I not have something right?
Yeah,
Oh,
so we need to do a public hearing. It was introduced last time to be voted on tonight, so I'm gonna open a public hearing. I'm gonna close the public hearing. I'm gonna entertain a motion to approve resolution 2021-18. And then we will hear from Bailey.
I move that we approve it.
Second,
Has moved it. Do we have a second?
Carol, second.
Carol, great. Thank you. Bailey, all yours.
This is a resolution to approve the Johnstown Active Transportation Plan. We developed this plan in partnership with Licking County Area Transportation Study, and I'd like to thank them for their help on that. It contains the guidelines and goals of the village to invest and improve in our active transportation network, which I have heard. I've heard considerable feedback from council, so I also thank you all for that. And staff is really excited to get started on this. So
Well, we're excited to have you get started on it. And you did a fine job with this. Thank you very much. So it's been moved and seconded. Any questions from council members? Hearing none. Teresa, you want to call the roll?
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren,
Yes.
Carol Van Diest,
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Doug Lanner.
Yes.
Okay. The resolution is approved. Is it it's a resolution, right? Okay. Resolution 2021-19, a resolution appointing members to the Johnstown Tree Commission. Bailey, you want to handle this one?
yes, Donnie Barnard and Leah Argyle had terms that expired at the end of 2020. And the Tree Commission is requesting to reappoint those members until December 31st, 2023. And their appointments have been backdated to January 1st, 2021.
Okay.
And both Donnie and Leah did agree to this reappointment, so we're not doing it without their knowledge.
And since it's a resolution, it was introduced this evening. We're going to have a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing. Public can comment. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Ben's made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Marvin is seconded. Questions from council members?
The only question is, we're just updating section 1 here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have appointments for section 2 later this year.
Yeah, they don't run out yet, so
All right.
that's why they're,
Yep.
so. So anyhow, Teresa, you want to call the roll?
Yes.
If there are no other questions.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren,
Yes.
Carol Van Diest,
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Doug Lanner,
Yes.
Marvin Block.
Yes.
Resolution is approved. Next up is resolution 2021-20, resolution authorizing village manager to advertise for proposals for design services for the water treatment plant expansion. And tonight we're going to be introduced. We're doing a public hearing and a vote. And so Jack, are you leading us through this?
I guess I will.
Okay, Jack, you're on.
Well, as I've been reporting to council, our water usage has really went up a lot, and we've experienced a tremendous amount of growth, just as the resolution says, over the last 15 years. So we have put together a proposal to get proposals from engineers to come in and take a look at the plan. Request for proposal. We have an idea that we believe that we want to follow, but we thought in this case, it'd be good to have them come in, look the plan over, find the most cost-efficient way to get the next 1 million gallons working into Johnstown. So I don't know if you've read the proposal yet. Council, have you looked at it?
Yes.
In any event, it has a list of dates that we would like to target and hit. So this is step one to get into the planning stage. Any questions?
And there's actually, this is pretty in-depth proposal. What we're asking for is cost just for phase 1. There's 3 phases of this. So we'll see a cost for phase 1 because that'll dictate the cost for phase 2 and 3. But at this time, once we award, which obviously we're going to come back to you for award, but just want to make sure that's known. We won't have the full scope of design fees at this point.
Did I do the public?
This is not the same.
Did the public hearing, right? Or not?
Well, this is open to many firms because the type of plant we have, which is the Claricone, is not a common plant you see in Ohio. So we don't have a specific firm here in Ohio that is real familiar with this type of plant. Brundage Baker and Stoffel is who designed the original plant. And of course, that company is long gone. So in any event, we're going to have an open mind. We've led them to several questions I put together that we want answered for the next plant. But also, is there a better way, more efficient way than the way that I'm looking at it? So we're going to let a group of engineers come in and submit proposals to see if there's a better way to do the job or a more efficient way to do the job, or continue with what we're doing with the additional questions I have asked in the proposal.
Or in the meantime, if there's anything that you can upgrade the other plant, existing plant,
Yes.
it lasts longer.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of electronics and gauges and doodads. I'm sure that's the official
Yes,
word
I
for it.
The plant's how old now?
Well, it's almost 30 years old. So one thing that was asked, we were worried about terrorists or people getting into our SCADA system and changing chemical feeds like we all had in the news on these other plants a while back. We don't have anything that a phone can control at this particular point. It's all hands on and hands turning. So, here again, we're probably going to put a SCADA system in, upgrade the technology, but the old way hasn't hurt us at this point, but it's not as efficient as it could be. So we felt instead of just choosing an engineer, let's look at multiple engineers for this and see who can put together the best plan. Jim is absolutely correct. The cost is just for phase one, because depending on the type of plant we build, there'll be different costs for phase two and phase three.
But to clarify the RFP, there's no cost to the village for this. This isn't setting us anything. It's just,
This is them.
because there's a
coming to
difference
us.
between RFP and the RFQ and everything like that. So-
RFQ is more just, here's how qualified we are. Do you want to choose us? We have a section in the RFP talking about, who's qualified, who's going to work on this project. But it's more, one plant may be a lime soda plant traditional. Another guy may say nope, or a firm may say nope, this is exactly what you have. This will work best. Copy this and move through it. And then of course there's always ion exchange plants. There's many different types. So we're going to get their view of what space versus our water quality versus hardness and softening on this and combining the whole thing. So
That's what you mean by saying we have an open mind about how we're going about this. It's not as if we're setting up multiple firms with the specific parameters like we do when we bid the streets and stuff like that. This
Correct.
is, here's what we have, here's where we need to be. How would you as a firm get there?
yeah, I think I had a list of 13 questions that said, this is where I want to be at the end of this project.
How do you meet the two?
How are you going to marry our existing plant with what your new idea is and bring it together, which is different than the sewer plant. We knew we wanted to stay with SBR technology. It works great. You see the percentages of removal we're getting. We knew we wanted to stay there, but what we're dealing with is 30-year-old technology. Show us what might be better.
And that's why I wanted to clarify between those two processes, how we're doing the sewer versus how we're doing the water.
Water, correct.
And if you're free on June 8th at 9:00, you're more than welcome to come down to the water plant and get a free tour of it. Because Jack has given a pre-RFP tour to all the consultants.
It's worth it.
Yes, if you look at the schedule on the RFP, I thought since there's not a lot of Claricones in Ohio, these engineers better come through and take a look at what I have.
Yeah.
And then you'll see there's a question period following that, to where if they have questions about our system, they can send them to me. I'll respond to their questions, and then their proposal will come a week after that.
But the thing is, you're inviting them in and you get a lot of young people that's got the new ideas and stuff.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that, I know technology over the last 30 years have increased, but is there something better to get me to that end point? Like I said, I had 13 endpoint questions. I want to be here when we're done. What's the best way to get me there? We're hoping to see multiple ideas to look at.
You're talking like a much younger man than you are, Jack.
Questions for Jack? Okay, we need to do a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing.
Yeah, clerical change on that, Teresa.
Oh,
Just
Yeah.
above where it says now therefore be it resolved. This is not a roadway intersection improvement.
Improvements.
That
yeah.
is my fault. I did the legislation. Sorry, Teresa.
Yeah, you got.
That was a
this
Friday afternoon.
needs to get fixed.
you're like, oh,
Guess what you call it?
okay, I want to make sure I'm,
Copy and paste.
It's
All right.
oh, it's
the
above
Copy and
the-
paste.
Clear it up, that's all.
fourth whereas.
Why do you think he gets all the grants? Copy and
Fifth
paste.
whereas.
Fifth whereas, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got it.
Got it?
I'll correct it, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. With that,
It's not broke, don't fix it.
Great, thank you,
Move to approve the resolution.
Mr. Doug.
I'll
Been
second. it.
moved, been seconded.
We'll take one for Jack.
Question, any further questions from council members? Hearing none, we're gonna, Teresa, call the roll.
Okay. Sharon Hendren,
Yes.
Carol Van Deest,
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Doug Lehner,
Yes.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee.
Yes.
Resolution is approved. And I think there's one more. Okay. Ordinance, yeah, 20-2021, an ordinance amending ordinance 34-20, annual appropriation ordinance of the Village of Johnstown to approve necessary changes of appropriations. We're adding, this adds $5,000 to the restricted police fund. Dana.
Yes, this is, there may have been some confusion. This is not the Lexapol ordinance. This is actually monies that go into the restricted police fund from monies that they collect internally. And there was no money appropriated from that fund at the beginning of the year in the budget. So Chief had submitted some bills to be paid and I found out, well, there's no appropriation. So there's about $9,000 in the account. So, or in the fund rather. So I just picked an arbitrary number of 5,000 to appropriate for the year.
So we will vote on this on the 15th. It's just introduction. This.
Yeah, this can wait to be voted on at the next meeting. Mhm.
So we will move on.
And as a side note, if it's okay, I will have an ordinance for that Lexapol appropriation on the next meeting.
Okay, that's great. Next up is ordinance 21-2021. An ordinance amending ordinance 34-20, annual appropriation ordinance of the Village of Johnstown to approve necessary changes of appropriations. Dana.
Yes, as discussed at our last special finance committee meeting, it was decided to go ahead and hire a new police officer and fulfill a role there. And for half a year at the base rate, the personnel cost would be roughly $37,000, and that includes insurance and Ohio Police and Fire pension and payroll tax and et cetera.
Okay, so tonight is just introduction. We'll vote on it on the 15th. And you have a question, Marvin?
Yeah, is that gonna hold the chief up on,
No, we've moved ahead.
okay, so he's not gonna hold him up. Yeah, thank you.
That concludes the ordinance, the legislative part of our business. Is there any other business to come before the council?
Got a quick. We make this real brief. We've talked before about these new projects and new things that come into town. I'm sorry, I wasn't speaking into the monitor. We've talked before about the new projects and things that come to town.
Yep. To
let the developers keep and maintain the streets under the homeowners association. And I wondered if we would, majority of council would be interested in having Jim look into that and see what the legalities and stuff of it is. If it's possible, we could pass an ordinance to do that.
That all future streets for those types of developments are covered under the homeowners association?
But we're not gonna maintain them.
Be interested.
Up to the, yeah, let's take a look at it.
Will do.
I give you enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Okay.
Well, simple concept.
Yeah, the details are where it
Right.
gets tricky. We have an executive session listed here.
Mr. Mayor, just
Yeah.
one question. I didn't know if Jim
Yep.
wanted to touch on, so I don't think we did last time. I know you put something on Facebook with the flag contest.
Yes.
Yeah, so if any of you, we have one flag contest, and he's on the phone. His name's Chief Haroon. But we are soliciting community members to give us ideas for a village flag. So
City flag.
well, true, a city flag. But what we don't have one. We never have had one, and I think from a moment of in time that our communities has a change that we need to have a city flag and fly it proudly. So that contest is open until the end of the month. By no means any one design may win. It may be a combination of designs. Once council has the final say, then we will get it out and let people know. There will be a public voting period, but that doesn't mean that flag wins. We do want to make sure, we don't have ducks and icebergs on it or something like that. We want to make sure it's compatible with what Johnstown stands for. So that is out there online. If anyone has any questions, get a hold of myself. Details are not details. Deadline is the end of the month.
Anybody else on other things? Hearing none. We're going to do a short executive session. And
There'll be no decision after. So once executive session's over, we will adjourn. And I can do a breakout meeting, I believe, or we can just kick everybody off.
I think
Whatever you
we
wanna do.
can just throw everybody off. Be the shortest and quickest. And we appreciate everybody who's been on. We appreciate all who have come up.
And I would ask that myself, Dana, and Jack be involved in the executive
Okay,
session.
great. We thank you.
Take care, administration team and members of council. Have a good evening.
Have a good vacation, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
vacation.
I shall. Take care.
I need a public.
Yes.
I need a public
Vote.
motion, vote, and roll call
Okay, we need a motion to go into executive session
for the purpose of.
for the purpose of talking about economic development assistance.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. I'm going to call the roll.
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Doug Laner,
Yes.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren,
Yes.
Carol Van Dies.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
So we are in executive session. Whoever, Joan Clark and Hayward, we'd ask that you drop off as well for the executive session. If not, unfortunately, I'd have to kick you out.
You know how to do the breakout meeting? Have you
Mhm.
done a breakout meeting yet?
No.
I'm just curious.
Me too.